Look, I got problems with Dan Crenshaw. I think he's corrupt, just like every other member of Congress. He's done some nonsense that I'm not a big fan of when it comes to investing as a member of Congress and things like that, like so many of them are guilty of. But this interaction with him and some interesting individuals from that were testifying before Congress this week, I just had to bring up. This is the New England Take. I'm your host, AJ Kiersa, thenewenglandtake.com. Like and subscribe, and check out the podcast feed, also on all major podcast platforms. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this from Twitter. This was posted done by the Post Millennial over here.
You've said that we've cherry-picked data. How do you mean that?
So it is very unscientific and flawed to pick a single study or a single statistic and to discuss it in isolation.
Totally agree.
Medical experts are able to talk about all of the evidence as a whole.
Totally agree. So it's good to look at systematic reviews, right? That's the gold standard of evidence when you're trying to understand whether something works or whether it doesn't. So the British Journal of Medicine looked at 61 systematic reviews with the conclusion that, quote, there is great uncertainty about the effects of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries in young people. Journal of Endocrine Society came up with the same conclusion, even the American Academy of Pediatrics. They all cite the lack of evidence. And so here's the thing. If you're doing a therapy and it's, temporary, whatever, fine, maybe let's try it, let's see if it works. But when you're talking about permanent physiological changes, do you not agree, just from an ethical standpoint, that you might want extremely strong evidence of the benefits? And there is no systematic review that states that there is strong evidence of benefits.
Now, at this point, I would expect, yes, this person's going to come out, is going to have data to back her argument. This is a professor at a prestigious school, and she's going to have all the information. She has nothing. She has nothing at all. I figured Eye Patch McCain here was going to be jumping the shark like so many Republicans want to do in the culture war, but now we go to a very painful 50-second close here.
Sir, are you aware of how the quality evidence grading system works and how it's applied?
Yeah, we read through it. That's why I'm citing these journals. So which journal says something different? We should have that debate. Tell me a journal that has done systematic reviews that cites different evidence, that cites strong evidence for benefits of these therapies.
The standards of care were developed based on extensive...
You're not telling me any journal. You're not telling me any study.
Exactly.
Don't say standards of care.
Yeah. So...
Tell me one.
So, and Stammer, and, well, I'm correct. Well, she has no idea.
The standards of care.
That's the standards of care. That's not a journal. That's not a study. That's not an organization. That's not an institution. You're just saying words. Name one study.
Yeah.
I'm out of time. I yield back. You've said that we...
Yeah, so it's... I cannot comprehend why this woman thought it was going to be a smart idea to testify in front of Congress about this. This is a Democrat witness was brought in for this. That's why she was there. And it just goes to show the stupidity of this whole debate. They keep saying, like, there's so much evidence. There's all these studies for this transgender treatments, quote unquote, that are given to especially children. Like if you're over 18, look, whatever. I don't really care that much. So yes, there's ethical medical debates that should be discussed around that, but that's really not the heart of what's going on. Children who receive treatments for gender dysphoria in order to affirm their gender that they believe they have. They believe they are. It has lifelong consequences. They become permanent medical patients because of all the deterioration of bone density that happens, the sterilization that they have. It's huge. Sterilizing them. This is what they do to sex offenders in certain parts of the country, definitely in certain parts of the world. And I'm going to go over to this other clip that was a response specifically to this presentation that is just so spot on. I found it. I had to play it.
I'm going to use my time to respond to Dr. McNamara. First, I'm struck by her use of the phrase "sex assigned at birth." Sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is established at conception, and it's recognized at birth, if not earlier. Dr. McNamara claims that her views are science-based, but to claim that sex is assigned at birth is without any scientific basis whatsoever. Its language misleads people, especially children, into thinking that male and female are arbitrary designations and can change. That is simply not true. Dr. McNamara claims that social and medical interventions are the only evidence-based treatment and that scientific evidence shows it is life-saving. Without it, she's warning us, kids will commit suicide. Well, a growing number of countries have effectively banned the care to which she's referring. And thank God there's been no wave of suicides or other mental health catastrophes. 3 years ago, Finland placed strict limitations on medical interventions for minors. Sweden did the same thing after a 14-year-old girl was found to have osteoporosis and spinal fractures from puberty blockers.
This is not something we can just write off. This is something we need to honestly consider going forward when it comes to this debate of minors receiving quote-unquote gender-affirming care. It is not gender-affirming care. It is yes, there are many people with gender dysphoria that are under 18, and I will not say otherwise to that. I know that'll probably annoy some people on the right also, the fact I say that. But there is a serious problem when you start in turn giving them puberty blockers and hormones during the most important stages of their development. If you are under 18 and you are malnourished for a couple years of that time due to poverty or some abuse or anything like that, that has lifelong consequences that many children are not able to recover with through adulthood. This is ongoing. I don't understand why there's this difference that some people think there is when it comes to puberty blockers, when they stop their development, so they're not able to fully achieve adulthood in the way that their biology says. And in this, Dr. Miriam Grossman is so correct when it comes to the assigned at birth. No, sex is the biological sex of the individual. Humans are just like every other mammal on the planet. They're male or female when they're born. It is not a sign. No, this is the sex of the individual. And this is why I get really, really angry when I start hearing sex be used instead of gender when people are referring to gender. Sex is the biological sex with the chromosomes that person has. And yes, there are intersex people. It's like less than 0.5% of the population. Like, it's exceedingly less. It is not the rule. The rule is that you are not intersex, you're going to be male or female, and then if you have gender dysphoria or decide to be non-binary or something else, that's on you. That's not on biology for the most part, unless you have gender dysphoria, which is a psychological condition. But we're finding many people with gender dysphoria have like autism, like they have other things going on. They have severe depression, and this is their way of coping, and there's no evidence to show that that's the healthy way to be coping and dealing with these issues. We need studies, and we keep hearing these people on the left saying, like, the science says this, the science says this. There's no science saying this. Just because you have procedures that this is the way it should be treated, it doesn't mean it's backed by anything. It means a bunch of doctors that wrote the textbook said it's the case. Procedures are not the rule. I can make up whatever procedures I want for my show, and I can say it's data-based. I look to see how many people watch the show. Well, guess what? There's the social media algorithms have an impact on it. Whether people honestly care about that subject at any given time. Like, there's so many other things than just what people write down saying the rules are. And we need to not forget that. We need to pay attention to what is happening to the children in this country or around the world, in many Western countries, when they are given drugs to deal with an identity issue. No kids know what they are. None of them. Parents' job is to make them feel confident in who they are and be informed with the way their body's developing, because it will make them feel like they don't belong. Kids, that's just life. You're going to feel that way at some point when you're a kid because you're going through changes, and to give them drugs to address that is abusive, in my opinion. All right, so New England Take, newenglandtake.com. Like and subscribe if you're getting this on YouTube, and I'll talk to you next week.